real quick how to lower your bug. And what this is here is the front beam, so it's a little easier to see, which is out of the car, obviously. And it was from a dune buggy that, like that light, man, that I disassembled, I bought for parts. Nice link pin beam. A little harder to find now. This is actually a pretty old one too, if you look at the steering box. So anyway, how can you lower your bug? And hopefully you can see this okay. Hang on, let me just move this around a little bit. Alright, so what you have to do to lower your bug, really, the best way to do it, if you're looking at the front end, you have a few options, okay? Depending on how much money you want to spend and how far you need to go with this, you know, and how low you're trying to go. And if you're going with disc brakes, all those things make a difference. So the best way is, I find, for most lowering situations, is to actually take your beam out of the car. Take the whole thing out, disassemble all of this here, take these nuts out of the middle, okay, pull all your torsion bars out of the whole beam, and you'll have all these trailing arms off, okay. This one's a little bit, I guess the steering box is old, but this is a later model beam because it has the, this was 62 or later, so 62 to 64, so 65. So and take off your sway bar bushing. You know, you have to slide these things out right here. Take off your sway bar bushing if you have sway bars. Take it all apart. Take it out of the car, okay, and then take your beam down to a machine shop that does this. A lot of guys sell them online where you can do an exchange. You can send your beam in. You have to take your steering box off, and what they'll do is you can do this yourself if you really know what you're doing. But what you need to do is you need to clock where this thing is right here. If you're going to do it yourself, clock where this thing is when you do it. What this is just a lock nut for your torsion bars that are inside. You take this off, and then there's a Allen bolt there, and then that comes out and has a little pointed pin on it. So, and what you do is you buy the adjusters. Okay, they go in, they insert, they weld in right here on your beam. So you weld one in the bottom and one in the top. Okay, and what they do is they make this portion adjustable, so it slides back and forth on a ratcheting type of a retainer thing. So it'll make it so that you can adjust where it actually adjusts up this way. Oh, just see, nope, it goes down this way. When it comes down this way further, that's going to make your car lower. So you can adjust both of these up to get that beam to adjust really nice and make your car really low. That's one of the easy ways. Okay, the other thing you can do is if you want a specific height, let's say you're only going to go 2 inches, you can get the drop spindles. So you can buy those along with a set of disc brakes and just do a minor lowering job, a couple inches. But most of you guys are looking to go further than that. So some guys actually go with the drop spindles, and they'll do an adjustable beam. Now, if you're going to go that far, now you're going to run into another issue. Tire rub. Your tires are going to rub on your fenders. So you're going to have to do a lot of research to find out the tire size you have, what size, you know, if you're going to go extreme lower, you got to find out what size tires that will work. So you have to kind of do some research on the internet. You're going to find somebody who's done the same type of thing you want to do, who has a bug that's really slammed. Look at his actual tire sizes, and then ask him how much that he narrowed his beam. So what guys are doing is they'll take, you know, you can't really do your own narrowing. You really should have this done by a machine shop, because I'm not even sure exactly how they do it. But I believe that they take this, see how this is wide right here on both sides. It's wide, and they'll put a flat shock tower in, and then that takes an inch off or whatever, and then they'll actually narrow it a little bit here, and they know exactly how to narrow it, and they probably have to move these, you know, so it gets pretty complicated to do that. So, but I'm telling you, the reason I'm telling you about narrowing your beam, some of you guys go, I don't like the look of the narrowed beam. Well, it's not for the look. So let's say you're going with disc brakes in the front. Your disc brakes are about 1 inch wider stance than a drum brake. So as soon as you do that, you add the disc brakes and you slam your bug, now your tires are definitely going to rub. So you have to go more narrowed. And then there's the guys who go extreme narrowed because they want that really narrowed look and it doesn't have any steering radius. All stuff that I do not do. So that's why I just, you know, I want my car to be drivable. I don't want it to just look cool. I'd rather have it stock and not do all this stuff. But I'm showing you guys because you guys are looking to do it. So this is your front beam. So basically, we'll recap again. You put in an adjustable beam. So you could send your beam out to a machine shop, have them put in just a beam adjusters. Best way to do it, because if you get this thing in the wrong place, it's not going to lower properly. And tell them how many inches you're trying to lower it. Okay. If you're going with disc brakes, you have to go with a narrowed beam. If you're going to go lowered, you know, you're going to have tire rub. Unless you go, and you're going to have to go with really low profile tires. Some of the tire sizes, I believe, are 165, 55, 15s. Okay, that's something like that. There's some weird sizes now. And they have a wide tire that's really low profile. That helps you get a little bit lower. And then you can do a drop spindle. Remember, I think drop spindles go down to about 2 inches, and that's about as far as you can go with a drop spindle, which 2 inches doesn't really take a lot. This one does the most. You can go 3 to 4 inches by doing adjustable beam. So that's for your front end. Let me show you the back end now. But one more thing on the front end. If you're going for the cheap lowering job, if you have a 68 and newer, you can actually take this nut off, the center ones off, all of those off, the pins out, and the caps off of here, and hammer out all the small torsion bars, and that'll bring you down an inch. Or if you're going for the really cheap lowering job at home, and you don't want to even do an adjustable beam, you can hammer out all your torsion bars, okay, and then take 2 of the big ones on the upper or lower. I usually do the upper. Take the 2 of the larger ones on an earlier beam. So on a 65 and older bug, you can take 2 of the lower, big torsion bars out and actually cut the ends of them off, okay? And then put all the torsion bars back in and put those pieces in so that your pin, you'll see what I'm talking about when you have this all apart, so that your pin goes into the set area in the torsion bars and keeps it all together tight. That's your cheap lowering job for the front, for you guys who are interested in doing the cheap way. So on your rear, all you want to do to lower the rear, I've got Spider City back here, is take off those 4 bolts, take that plate off, make sure, and you have to take the wheel off, all 3 of the axle bolts off, slide the axle back, take your spring plate loose, be careful, it's going to be under tension. Take your spring plate loose, take it all the way out, bring it up 1 notch, put it back in. Now, remember the inner and outer splines on the torsion bar that's underneath this cap in here, the inner and outer splines are clocked different. So when you lower one side 1 notch, the other side you might have to take the inner one and then go, you know, to make sure that the distance between the top of the spring plate and the stop of the spring plate stop are the same. So if you lowered it and it's like sitting on the spring plate and there's that much gap on one side, you want to take out the the torsion bar and clock it, and then put it back in, keep taking it out, putting it back in until it makes the same distance as the other side. And you do that by taking the inner and the outer torsion bar out. So you might take the inner one out, move it once, and then take the outer one out off, and then move it 2 notches the other way, and then put it back on. Then take the inner one out, move it 1 more notch, and then until it looks the same. The distance between the spring plate and the spring plate stop are the same. Reassemble, and you can actually do a half notch. There's a way to do that, because they call a half notch is basically one side. You're playing around with that variable there. Well, normally you take it off and you just go 1 notch and put it back in. You'll see where that is. But if you want to go half notch, then what you do is you play with the things that I was telling you. Take the inside out, go up 2, come back, put it in, go to the other outside, go down 1 until it's what looks like a half notch, where it's not quite what a whole notch distance is between those 2 areas. So I don't know, it's too complicated for me to explain. You'd have to see it. I'm not going to lower anything, so I'm definitely not going to be doing that. But that's another way if you want to go half notch. Honestly, if you have swing axles, you're going to have serious tire wear on the inside if you lower your bug. That's why I don't do it. I've already gone through that. I've already done that part of my life. I don't like to have to put tires on every few months, so I don't do it. So anyway, but that's how you lower the rear, if that's what you're interested in doing. If you have IRS, it's the same way, but they're just different bolts that you got to take off to take the axle portion off and put back on. All right, so that's it for lowering your bug. Talk to you in the next video.